Tasmad yasya mahabhagho nigrihitani sarvasha indriyanindriyar deshvyas indriyanindriyar devyas tasya pratishtita. Therefore, or are mighty harmed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. One purport of Srila Prabhupada. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, is called sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation.
All right. So Prabhupada introduces this word sadhaka. Sadhaka meaning a practitioner, somebody who is actually practicing bhakti yoga. And Prabhupada describes a sadhaka here and said that a suitable candidate for liberation. So somebody wants liberation, they have to practice. As Prabhupada said, they have to practice under the guidance of the spiritual teacher. And they have to practice things, there's two parts. One is the four regulated principles, the things we have to give up. And then there's the things we have to do. What do we have to do? We have to chant, we have to read the books, we have to worship Krishna, we have to offer our food, we should take prasadam, these kind of things. So this is sadhaka. When the sadhaka becomes pure devotee, then he becomes a nitya siddha. So there's sadhaka and siddha. Sadhaka is one who's becoming pure, and siddha is the one who's already pure, already perfect. So Prabhupada describes the process that we have to use the senses. He said that whose senses are restrained from their objects. The senses, of course, we have the five senses, they're called knowledge acquiring senses, namely the eyes, the nose, the tongue, and then the ears and the skin. They're the five knowledge acquiring senses. And then the sense objects, the senses have to be restrained from their objects. So the objects of the senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, like that. So Prabhupada's explaining that the process is to use the senses in the service of Krishna. Somebody may think we have to stop the senses. When you read this translation, it sounds like you have to stop everything. Don't smell, don't look, don't touch, don't taste, don't hear. Like we say, see no evil, hear no evil, touch, like that. But the process in Krishna consciousness is to use the senses, but for the service of Krishna. Positive engagement of the senses in the service of Krishna. And Prabhupada explains that if we're always engaged in the service of Krishna, then there's no room for Maya. You won't have any problems with the material energy. We just have to keep ourselves always busy in Krishna consciousness. That's the important point. So Krishna consciousness is meant to be like that. It's meant to be continuous, uninterrupted. I don't know how it is in Switzerland, but in cities these days, like in Bangkok or Tokyo or Hong Kong, they have these shops open 24 hours a day, never close. Do you have them like that in Switzerland? 24/7.
No, there is no here in Switzerland. No, no.
I'm glad to hear that. You're still civilized. But these places, these cities are so degraded. People work all day and all night. They have the shop open all day and night. So anyway, the point is devotional service is a bit like that. Then we have to be always busy in Krishna consciousness. Does it mean we cannot sleep? No, of course, we have to sleep. But, our sleeping is also for Krishna service, so that our body will be strong and fresh and we'll be able to serve Krishna the next day. That's the idea. If you don't sleep, then you'll become very tired and you'll collapse one day, you just fall down, so tired. So it's important to get some rest. And so that's not against devotional service. It's also in order so that we can serve Krishna. And we don't say don't eat, but we say eat Krishna prasadam. Everything in relation to Krishna, right? Use the senses for Krishna's pleasure. Hear about Krishna, chant for Krishna, smell the flowers offered to Krishna, see the deities, use the eyes, see the deities, all of these things. Okay? Any question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Now let's say now the senses are all engaged in Krishna consciousness. That means they are doing activities in Krishna consciousness, all the senses, and the intelligence is also somehow in Krishna consciousness, because we are following. We are in Krishna consciousness now. But what about the mind? The mind seems out of control. It seems like it seems to be independent. It seems like working on its own. Like how do we control that? It seems like to be out of control.
Well, the process is that we use intelligence to control the mind. The mind certainly has desires. That's generally how the mind acts, that our desires come from the mind, from the mental platform. So we have to control these desires by using our intelligence. The mind may say, eat this, the mind may say, go there, do that, but the intelligence stops us. The intelligence will say, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. It's not good. The intelligence is the ability to discriminate, to distinguish between what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. So we have to use the intelligence. It's that higher than the senses is the mind. The mind can direct the senses, but above the mind is the intelligence. And the intelligence is seated next to the soul. So the intelligence gets some help from the soul because it's seated next to the soul, described like this in Bhagavad Gita. So it's important for us to have, when I speak of intelligence, I don't mean like a material IQ, you got a degree or you're a PhD. I don't mean that kind of intelligence, but I mean intelligence to distinguish, the good and the bad, to know what is proper, what is moral, what is honest, what is legal. Intelligence to guide us in Krishna consciousness, to follow scriptures, to act according to scripture, according to Krishna's direction. So that's how our intelligence should be trained. We have to cultivate that intelligence by hearing Bhagavad Gita. by hearing the Bhagavad Gita and by chanting also, by doing japa every day, it helps us to develop intelligence to control the mind. Yeah? You understand now?
Yes, Maharaj. Why is the mind such a difficult thing to control? Is it because, like, from time immemorial that I've acquired so much of material desires and material things in myself that the mind does not want to give it up?
Yes, it can be, the nature of our mind is certainly influenced by our past activities, our previous life, the type of environment which we've been brought up in, and the association which we have. All of these things influence our mind, the mental thoughts. You associate with people, you're influenced by them. So they influence our thinking. So it's very important to train the mind, make the mind a friend. We have to discipline the mind to get the mind to do what we want, not to let the mind act as it wants. Sometimes our mind becomes so powerful, it controls us. It gets us to do things that we don't know why I did it. I don't know why I did it. It was my mind. My mind just carried me away. So it's important for us to train ourselves, control the mind and the senses. Controlling the mind and the senses is that is in every process of spiritual practice. There must be control of the mind and the senses. And there are different ways to do it. You know, you can do it by things like austerity, or practicing celibacy, brahmacharya, or giving charity and going to visit holy places. These things, they can all help us to control the mind and to get control over the mind and senses. But the other way to do it is by the association with the devotee, with a good devotee. We go to the Krishna Consciousness Center, and devotees are there and they can guide us. And when we're in the Krishna Conscious Center, then the atmosphere is very pure, and the devotees are very, very regulated, and they don't do any sinful activities. And so just by being in their presence, we're greatly benefited. The association, we reflect the qualities of the people we associate with. Just like you put a metal rod into the fire, it will become hot like the fire. It will take on all the qualities of the fire. So the same way, devotee, and if we go to the temple and we associate with devotees, or we get the association somewhere of devotees, then it can affect us. It will help us to control our mind and senses. And it will help us to cultivate that good intelligence to fight against the enemies which are there, which come into the mind like lust and anger and greed, these kind of things. It enters into the mind, and even our intelligence can become bewildered sometimes. So it's very important to cultivate the good knowledge and the good intelligence by regularly hearing spiritual knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, and by doing regular practice like chanting of the holy name. And also the food which we eat is also important. It's also affects our consciousness and the way we think and activity. So when you can eat food which is vegetarian, which is offered to Krishna, prepared by devotees, very helpful. Mm-hmm.
Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Tanmay Prabhu, do you want to read 2.69?
Okay.
Yes, Mataji, sure. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Ya Yanisa Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Yagarti Samyam Yasyam Yagrati Bhutani Shanisha Pasyato Mune. So, translation. What is night for all beings in the time of awakening, for the self-controlled, and the time for awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. I'm sorry, I will read it again. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective sage. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. These are two classes of intelligent men. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in this sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions.
We have a very nice verse comparing the devotee to the materialist. And we can see how our lives are so different. One who is a devotee and one who is a materialist, they just have very different consciousness, very different moods, very different kind of timetable or way of living. The lifestyle is so different. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, what is like day for the devotee, that is night for the materialist. Just like devotees, generally as devotees, we like to wake up at quite early in the morning. You know, if you have a temple nearby, you know, devotees in the temple, they will be up maybe by 4 o'clock and they have Mongol Aarti by 4:30. But the people who are materialists, you know, they're coming home about 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to sleep about 4 o'clock, you know. They go to sleep in the late morning, in the morning, early morning, and they wake up very late in the day. Like that, they're awake all night. Devotees, they sleep. We sleep in the night, wake up in the day. But for the materialists, they look forward to the night and they think about the night life, you know. They don't think the night is for sleeping or for resting. They think the night is for their enjoyment. In so many ways, we're opposites. The lifestyle of the devotee and the materialists are so different. The food we eat, the way we eat, the way we live, the way they live. There's so many differences. You know, they like to watch all kinds of movies and Bollywood movies and different things on television and so on. But the devotee just wants to chant Hare Krishna and maybe read Bhagavad Gita. It's so different. Everything's so different for a devotee between the devotee and the materialist. So Lord Krishna has compared the two paths. One is like, what is our night is their day, and what is our day is their night. Is that clear? Everyone understand this verse?
Yes,
Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
They have told it as day and night because night means darkness and night means which they cannot understand, Guru Maharaj. The materialistic person, they cannot understand. It's like that. Mm.
Well, yes, we could say it also like that in terms of the ability. They cannot understand our life, and we have difficulty to understand their life, you know? They say we must be crazy to give up everything or to turn away from the life of material sense enjoyment, to stop eating meat, fish, and eggs, to stop gambling and intoxication and illicit sex. They say we must be crazy, but we say they're crazy. So yeah, we have. You could call it ignorance. That what they think, they have a lot of knowledge about how to enjoy, how to get their sense gratification. They're very expert. They have many plans, how they're going to get money and how they're going to spend their money, and they like to do so many things for their sense gratification. Devotee, for a devotee has no meaning. Devotee is not attracting, not interested. Just like Srila Prabhupada described, he said one day he was walking in the street of Calcutta and he happened to meet someone he had remembered from his childhood days, an old school friend. So this man said to him, he said, I'm going to the cinema. Come with me to the cinema. But Prabhupada said to him, he said, no, I cannot go with you to the cinema. I'm not going to go to the cinema. He said, even you give me so many thousands of rupees or hundreds, whatever, even you give me a huge sum of money, I'm not going to come with you to the cinema. He said, I don't want to sit there and watch a cinema. But for the man, he was surprised because he was thinking, this is enjoyment, this is my pleasure. But to Srila Prabhupada, there was no pleasure at all to go and sit in a cinema house and watch some reflections on a screen. So like that, what is night for one person is day for another. Totally opposite ways of thinking and ways of seeing the world.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Batma Mataji, do you want to read this? 2.70. आपूर्यामाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रम् आप प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामयं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे शान्तिम् आप्नोति न कामकामी. Translation: a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purpose: although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross behind the limits of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities. And he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, want to seek of material success, can never attain peace. The fruity workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires and therefore they are in perfect peace.
Yes, very nice example given by Lord Krishna. Just like the rivers enter into the sea, but the ocean itself remains always still. So the comparing these rivers to the desires entering into the mind. Because we have a material body, because we have material senses, and because we're conditioned also, so desires are going to be there. But even though desires come in the mind, we don't act, right? Described here, a devotee, he's peaceful. He doesn't need anything. He's not anxious for anything. Other people, they all want something. And some people want material sense gratification. Some people want liberation. Some people want yogic powers. They all want something. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakale, ashanta. You know, none of them are peaceful. Krishna bhakti niskam saisha shanta. But a devotee, he's peaceful because he has no material desire. He's happy just to chant Hare Krishna and to serve Krishna. And so even though the opportunity for sense gratification comes, he doesn't want it. It doesn't mean anything to him because he's happy. He's getting some greater pleasure in serving Krishna, his relationship with Krishna. So a devotee in Krishna consciousness is very careful to avoid sinful activities. Even though these desires come in the mind, we have the intelligence to control the senses, right? We have to have that good intelligence. Just like, you know, the mind may think, oh, there's so much money in the bank, let me rob the bank. You know, so you can if you rob the bank, you know what's going to happen. You know, you're going to get caught by the police and you'll go to jail for a long time. So a devotee is very careful. We use our intelligence. Why should I do that? You know, it doesn't make any sense to suffer. Just be happy, be satisfied with what we've got. And chant Hare Krishna and experience peace of mind, experience the pleasure of the soul. So that is the idea. We want to be peaceful. We don't want to be always trying to get more, try more. Let me try this, let me try that, let me do this, let me go there, oh, the mind can be very restless. So we have to just calm down and be peaceful, going to be peaceful. Just take shelter of Krishna. And think, I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna, I'm going to read the Bhagavad Gita. I don't want anything more. So it's a practice. We have to train ourselves. We have to train the mind to be settled in that way. Then it becomes natural, second nature. So it's a nice example Krishna's giving, an analogy. It's like the rivers enter into the sea. We see the Ganga, Mother Ganga. She has so much water, and the water's all flowing to the sea, and into the water flows very fast. The current in the Ganga is very strong, but the sea still remains calm. The sea doesn't get overthrown by all the water entering in. And so we should keep our mind also, even though so many thoughts come in the mind. Just neglect the mind. That's the point. We have to learn, when the mind is desiring, just think, here my mind is going again. Here's my mind off again. Just when the mind starts thinking all these thoughts, then it's time, you have to really pray to Krishna, take shelter of Krishna by loudly chanting the holy name. Pray to Krishna, oh Krishna, please protect me from please protect me from all these sinful desires. So the other way in which to control the mind is to keep ourselves always active in Krishna's service. So one way is, you're trying to pray to Krishna to help you not to listen to the mind and all its thoughts and desires. And the other way is to keep yourself always busy in Krishna consciousness, doing service for Krishna. And then we're safe. When we're always busy, then these thoughts will not come in the mind. The thoughts come in the mind because we're not engaged enough. We're not doing enough. We have a saying, we say that the idle mind is a devil's workshop. So if the mind is not fully engaged, if we're not keeping our mind busy in the service of Krishna, then the mind will become engaged in the service of the devil or in the service of Maya. So we have to be on guard. Always remember Krishna, right? That's the ultimate principle. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. And then we're safe. If we're remembering Krishna, then we won't be subject to these material desires. Everyone agree? Everyone agree? No response.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
But Guru Maharaj, sometimes even when we are doing Krishna conscious activities, we will do some mistakes here and there.
I agree.
And then if we become restless, that is material, or how is it, Guru Maharaj?
We become restless? Well,
yeah, some mistakes we will do with the devotees while dealing with the devotees. Something we didn't do our best, nicely present Krishna conscious, or some things like that.
well, we should always want to try and improve our service. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see our mistakes and think how we can do better. It's very nice. You don't want to be thinking I did everything perfect. We should always want to see our own faults and think, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do so well. I hope I try to do better next time. That's very good. It's a good attitude. If we're thinking I did very good, very nice, everything perfect, no, that's not very good. But if we're thinking I didn't do very well, I've got to improve, that's good. We want to try harder and do more for the service of Krishna. Yeah. So restlessness Yeah, restlessness, the agitation of the mind. The mind, that you have to control the mind. You have to be steady. And we have to know what is our proper engagement. The mind always wants to go here and there. You have to control the mind and just fix it to serve Krishna.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. But sometimes, Guru Maharaj, we have phobias, right? I have a phobia, like sometimes I cannot go in the lift, and so I know it's the problem with the mind. How to deal with all this? Which means that we are not fully dependent on Krishna. It's like that, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, yeah, we could think like that. We have to depend on Krishna. You have some phobias, something maybe from the childhood, from the past. You've developed this kind of phobia. We can overcome it, but it's not a big problem. A little phobia like that. You don't like to go and live. Some people, they don't like to go in airplanes. There are some, really big, powerful men. They won't go in an airplane. They're very afraid to go in airplanes. But these kind of phobias, they're small things, Yeah, we could say it's because we're not fully depending on Krishna. We have to know Krishna is protecting us. We live by the grace of Krishna and we die by the plan of Krishna. We can't do anything. We're not the controller. It's all in Krishna's hands. So it's all requires our surrender to Krishna. And so part of surrender is to know that Krishna is protecting all of us. He protects us, he maintains us. We have to just simply surrender to him. So again, these phobias, it's the mind. The mind is out of control. We develop this, oh, I'm afraid of this, I don't like this, I don't like that. This is the nature of the mind. So many other people, they go in the lift. So many other people, they fly. Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't I? We have to simply detach ourselves from all of these situations and take shelter of Krishna. Of course, it's not easy. It takes time. It takes practice. We're conditioned. We've been in the material world a long time. And because we've been in so long in the material world, so we have so much conditioning, we have so many doubts, so many thoughts, so many phobias, so many habits. And it takes time to rectify all of these and to give them up and change. It's not easy. But patience and confidence and enthusiasm then gradually can come about. One day you may find yourself in the lift, you didn't even think about it, and you're in the lift and you go up to the stair. Sometimes it's like that, because we're so much on the mental platform. Oh, no, I can't. But one day you just go in there, you didn't even think about it, you didn't even realize you were in the lift, and you realize nothing there, not a big problem. So like that, phobias, these things can be a problem for us, but we want to be conscious, we want to be Krishna conscious. Some devotees say, first become conscious and then become Krishna conscious. Some people are not even conscious. You see, they do things mechanically and sporadically, and they're not even conscious that they're doing it. They're not even conscious that they have bad habits, or they're using bad language, or they're living in a very impure, contaminated place. They don't even think about it. They have no consciousness. So first people have to become conscious, and then they have to go on and become Krishna conscious. It's the highest level of consciousness. Right?
Yes.
Guru Maharaj, I have a small question. So during some puja we perform to Krishna, we may do some mistakes, right? Maybe forgetting to offer prasadam to Krishna or giving aarti at the end. Some small mistakes will be considered as some sins.
No, Krishna considers your devotion. That what was your mood in doing this? You know, if you had the mood of devotion, that you wanted to offer something to Krishna, that's the important thing. Krishna is not so much concerned about all these different rules and regulations, but you know, he likes to see that mood of genuine devotion. We see Putana, you know, Putana came with poison on her breast. She wants to kill Krishna. But Krishna just said, oh, she wants to feed me. She wants to be my mother. And so Krishna took her back to Godhead. So these kind of things, you know, so certainly you're making an attempt with devotion to worship Krishna. Maybe you did things in a little different way from what they're usually done, but the important thing is you did something, you offered something to Krishna. That's the important thing. Krishna sees that you made this attempt to serve him, to please him. So certainly it's very nice. Krishna is very happy. He will bless you for it, for making this attempt. At the same time, we don't want to go on all the time and take advantage and just do everything the wrong way, just do everything as we like. We try to do everything in a manner according to the prescribed rules, the different rules and regulations. That's also good for us. And it pleases Krishna when he sees that we're sincerely trying to follow everything, to do everything properly. But he understands also, you know, somebody's, you know, not so experienced and they do something a little wrong. Krishna knows everyone's heart. Krishna knows what's happening. He understands everything. So I don't think you have to worry about any kind of offense, because your devotion will overcome any of these offenses. That's the important thing, the devotion. The genuine attempt to please Krishna. All
Thank you,
right?
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Most of us are being controlled by the three modes of material nature, and in the same time, they have this minute independence. So how do we differentiate being controlled by the three modes of material nature and having this minute independence, Maharaj?
Yes, our independence is either to surrender to the material energy or to surrender to the spiritual energy. We have that independence, that much independence. We can choose either to serve Krishna or not to serve Krishna. And when we don't serve Krishna, then we're serving Maya. So in both cases, we're controlled. It's interesting that if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna controls us. And when we surrender to Maya, then Maya controls us. We're never free. But our independence is to choose. Where do we want to serve? Do we want to serve under Krishna or under the material, under the Maya? That's our free will. That's our choice. And once we make that choice, then that's it. We come under the material energy, and then it's arranged. Either we're in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance. It will depend on our samskars, on our vasanas, on our mental conditions in the past and so on, will place us in a particular situation of the modes of nature. But we're not free. The free will is only to choose Krishna or Maya.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I also have one question, Gurudev.
Yeah.
When we do the Aarti, we rotate the lamps four times on the feet of Lord, then 2 times near the navel, then again 3 times round the face, and 7 times round around the Lord. Why is it? Why so many? Why? What's the meaning of that, Gurudev?
Well, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but this is just some, this is just to give us some guidelines about how we can offer the lamp to the Lord. It's not that there's any special significance in the number of times you circle these different parts of the body. It's just to help us to know roughly how we can offer something to the Lord. So generally, we offer something, first of all, to the feet of the Lord. We begin our meditation.
Okay.
We begin the meditation from the feet, right? Because the Lord is, He's the supreme, He's the superior. And when we come before a superior person, we bow before them. And so we look at the deity, we look first at the lotus feet of the Lord, and we offer worship there to the feet. And then you come up to the waist of the Lord, then to the face of the Lord, and then the overall body of the Lord. Yeah. This is just to guide us in how we can make an offering, what kind of procedure we should have in offering articles to the Lord. And we do the same when we worship Tulsi, it's the same thing. We offer first of all to the roots, and then up, and then to the top, like that.
Okay, one more question, Gurudev. Now, normally we do the agarbatti first, and then the lamp. After that only we do the bathing, and then we wipe the body. But normally, what I think, maybe I'm wrong, Gurudev, we should bathe first and then wipe and then show the aarti. Isn't it? Most of the temples, that's how they do. Why in ISKCON they show the lamp first, and after that, they do the bathing procedure?
Well, we're not actually bathing the deity. First of all.
With the conch shell, we take the water, and then we take it round.
Yes, but it's not actually bathing the deity. It's just an offering. We're offering the different elements of the nature to the Lord.
Okay.
So earth, fire, water, air, like that. These are the different elements of the Lord.
Okay, so that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, we wipe with a handkerchief, with a cloth.
Yeah, but we don't actually wipe, do we? We just simply offer that article. These are different articles. These are different articles which are prescribed to be offered to the deity. Suitable articles to be offered to the deity at the time of worship. So this is a tradition that I don't know which temples you've seen, but I've never seen other temples where they offer the water first.
No, not ISKCON temples, Gurudev. Most of the other temples, even the Tirupati, they are also first they put haldi, and then they put milk, and then they bathe. At the end of it, they do the aarti.
Well, the aarti, that's what we're doing. We're just doing the aarti. The bathing is done privately, right? But we're just doing the aarti. They blow the conch shell, and they offer the incense. That's the aarti. We only see the aarti. The bathing of the deity is not done publicly usually, unless it's a very special festival. But we're following in the Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya, and they have the different teachings, probably Tirupati, they're not Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they're maybe they're, I don't know, maybe it's from Shankaracharya or maybe it's Sri Vaishnava. But we had the Sri Vaishnavas come to our Tirupati temple and they installed the deities there, Tirupati.
Yes.
So we don't have any problem with the Sri Vaishnavas, but maybe the other people, the followers of Shankaracharya, they may have their own pujas, I don't know. I haven't associated, I don't associate with them.
Okay, Gurudev, thank you so much.
But the Gaudiya Math and the ISKCON, they're all following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they all offered like that.
Okay.
I've seen in the Gaudiya Math how they do Gaudiya Math ashram. That came from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he came from Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And before that, the Vrindavan, in Vrindavan, generally they do it like that. In Vrindavan, they will worship like that.
Okay. Thank you, Gurudev.
2.7, Kirtita, who wants to read it? Anyone wants to read this?
I'll read.
2.7?
I'll read, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Vihaya kamamya sarvan pumamscharati nispraha nirmano nirahankara sasanti madhigacchati. Translation: a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Purport: to give, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servant of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction. But when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight. But for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna and not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but it does not have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam. And therefore, he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely, knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. The understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace.
Okay, so a number of different qualities are described. First of all, to become desireless. And someone may think desirelessness means to make the mind blank, but that is not the Krishna conscious process. The impersonalists, they want to make the mind blank. But a devotee of Krishna doesn't want to make the mind blank. The devotee of Krishna wants to fill the mind with thought of Krishna, remembering Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's different activities, different incarnations and avatars, right? That is, and Prabhupada said that is desirelessness, when our mind is full in Krishna consciousness. So again, different, very different. We don't want to make, we know we can't make the mind blank because it's not the nature of the mind. It's the nature of the mind is to be active. The nature of the soul is active. We have to know how to be active, in what ways we can be active. That's important for us. To try to stop activity and do nothing. I mean, people think, someone may think all activity is Maya, it's all illusion, we should not do anything. Some people, they sit down and they meditate and make the mind blank, nothing, meditate on nothing. How long can they do it? And that is not practical, to just sit and make the mind blank and do nothing. That is not the goal of life. But these people, some people who do this, they're thinking that there's no God and the world is not real and everything is illusion. So they stop everything. But Krishna consciousness is a very different process. So we want to desire for Krishna, not to be without desire, but to have all desires in relation to Krishna. And then we should not think of ourselves as the proprietor of anything. We claim this is mine, this belongs to me, this is mine. Oh, we have a saying, you know, I remember that we're born with Kalihath ayate, Kalihath chilo, right? That we're born with nothing in our hand, and when we leave, we'll have nothing in our hand. When we leave the body, we'll have nothing in our hand. So what is actually ours? You know, we claim the proprietorship. This is mine. I made this. I bought this. This belongs to me. Ultimately, it's all Krishna's. So Prabhupada quotes that verse about Ishyavashyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagajam jagat. Everything animate and inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. This is the first mantra of the Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad, Prabhupada had translated and wrote commentary on the Ishopanishad. So everything animate and inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. We should accept, therefore, only those things necessary for ourselves, and we should not take more than we need, knowing well to whom it belongs. So that's a principle of Krishna consciousness, that just take what we need, don't take more than we actually need, don't be greedy. Try to always just minimize and optimize, don't maximize. Don't try to expand, but try to check, keep a check, try to bring them. Just like eating, you know, we don't want to eat too much. You try to reduce, don't overeat. Don't undereat, but at the same time, you don't want to overeat. And so, in relation to acquiring things and property and controlling, try to minimize. See everything as Krishna's property. A devotee understands everything belongs to Krishna. The house is also Krishna's. Put Krishna in the center of the house and worship Krishna every day. When we cook food, we offer it to Krishna. We think he's the proprietor. It's all his. He gave the food. He provided for us. We're offering to what is actually his. He doesn't need our offerings, but we need to offer it to him. Krishna has many goddesses of fortune all serving him in the spiritual world. So he doesn't need our offerings, but we need to offer to Krishna because it does a lot of benefit for us. It helps us to have the good consciousness, knowing that everything is Krishna's. Okay? Any more questions? We had a lot of questions today. Very good. All right, maybe we should Hare Krishna now.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. We can start with the chanting, Guru Maharaj. There is some chat message. Yeah.
There's a chat message, really? What's
Krishna, Madhav, Prabhupada were married, so they had.
What's that?
Krishna, Mahadev, Prabhupada were married, so they had desires because one marries one who loves. Maybe, I don't know.
Mahadev, Prabhupada were married, yeah. So they had to, yes, but they did not marry for sense gratification. Marriage is not just for indulging the senses and sense gratification. Marriage is a responsibility for the service of Krishna. And Krishna also took a responsibility in getting married. And similarly, Mahadev also, and Srila Prabhupada. It's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to take care of a family and to bring Krishna conscious children into the world and raise them to be devotees so that they can go back home, back to Godhead. And so that is service to Krishna. It's not a material desire. So we're talking, don't think everything is material. You understand, you think it's material desires? You think Krishna was lusty? You think Prabhupada was lusty or Lord Shiva was lusty? Lord Shiva, he's very sense-controlled. He's very sober-minded, Dira. There's so many examples of Lord Shiva, how he was so controlled and not at all agitated. And Lord Krishna has so many wives, but one of Lord Krishna's opulences is renunciation. He's not attached to any of them. Although they're so beautiful, the most beautiful women in the universe, they're all there as Krishna's wives. But Lord Krishna is not attached to them. But he takes care of them and he looks after them and he keeps them happy. And they have children. That's the duty. Is it clear? Who asked that question?
Yes, thank you very much. Very much. I understand.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, nice. Nice, Simon. Thank you. All right, we're going to chant japa now. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasa de Gaur Bhakti